Hey, welcome to another lesson where we do one-step equations. We're going to use the inverse operations again today to solve algebraic equations. These algebraic equations this time are going to involve multiplying and dividing. After last lesson, did you at any time wonder if maybe these math teachers are really just pirates and they just want you to find the x so that they can get to the buried treasure? How many times did you find x last lesson with addition and subtraction? Quite a few times, huh? I can neither confirm nor deny that I am indeed a pirate. But I will continue to keep asking you to find the x, find the value of the variable, right? So we're going to do the same thing as last lesson. We're going to be finding the variable by doing the inverse operation and then doing the same thing to the other side to keep the equation equivalent. Today, though, we're going to be mostly dealing, not mostly, 99% of the problems will be multiplication or division problems. So we'll be going back from multiply to divide to multiply. You are interrupting me. Come here. Is your room clean?
Yes.
I will check it when I'm done with this video. Better go and finish it.
Okay.
All right. So here's the first problem that I want to find the value of the unknown variable. Basically, where's the x? What's the value of the x? Okay. Now, we can't get x by itself because there's a 3 in front of it. We know that that coefficient and that variable, we know that those are being timesed together. So if we come over here, the opposite of times, the inverse of times is divide. So we're going to do the divide like the fraction divide, the fraction bar divide. We're not going to do this divide, we're going to do this divide. Okay, now let me tell you why it works, how it works, I guess. When we decide to divide by 3, what is 3 divided by 3? It's 1, right? And what is 1x? Well, it's the same thing as just x, isn't it? So by dividing that coefficient, that number in front, by itself, it gets us to just 1. Okay? So that was step 1. Isolate the variable. It's now by itself. Step 2, if we divide by 3 on one side, we need to make sure to keep it equal and divide by 3 on the other side. So we need to figure out what 120 divided by 3 will be. And that is 40. Okay, now I am going to change my color and I'm going to check it. The way I'm going to check it is I'm going to replace the x, the 40, with the x, and I'm going to go 3 times 40, and I'm going to get 120. So check, x is indeed 40. What if you have a problem that looks like this? It could look like this. You could also see it like this. But honestly, guys, this symbol is going away. What you're going to see more often than not is this symbol for division. And then the 2 dots being replaced with numbers or variables, right? Like you notice that still is a division sign. It just is replaced with numbers and variables. Okay, so this is v divided by 8 equals 24. Where is the variable? Right there. Why is it not by itself? Well, because it's being divided by 8. What is the opposite of division? Multiplication. So here's how we're going to divide. Here's how we're going to multiply this. We're going to times by 8. Okay. Now, to make that a fraction, it'll be 8 over 1, won't it? I'm going to bring this down here just so you can see what is going on. Okay, now, we remember when we multiply straight across. But before we multiply straight across, we can often cross-simplify. Because these are both 8, I can divide them both by 8, and I end up with 1. 1 times v is 1v. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 over 1 is just 1, so we got v by itself. That's why it works to do the inverse operation. Whenever you do the inverse operation, it always tends to just cancel out. So we're going to cancel it out, cross it out, and then if we're going to times by 8 on one side, we better times by 8 on the other side. So 24 times 8 is 16, 17, 18, 19, 192. I'm going to say that V is 192. But I'm not going to move on. I can now check it by replacing the 192 with the V. 192 divided by 8 is 24. So yes, indeed, V is 192. Okay, kind of cool. So May ran 14 laps around a track for a total of 4,200 meters. The equation 14D equals 4,200 or 4,200 can be used to find the distance in D in meters she ran in each lap. Solve the equation. Solve the equation is saying, what's the distance? What's the D? What's the unknown, right? Find the X. All right, so here we go. Here is the variable that we're trying to solve what it is. It is not by itself because it is being times by 14. What is the inverse of times? It is divide. So we are going to divide by 14, and then we're going to cancel that out. That leaves us with D. Okay, we're going to also remember that if we're going to divide by 14 on one side, we're going to make sure that we divide by 14 on the other side as well to keep things balanced evenly. Okay, so now we just got to do 14 divided by 4,200. 14 times 2, I know, is 28. 14 times 3 is, oh, perfect, 42. And then when I bring down a 0, 14 can go into 0 0 times. Bring down that next 0. 14 can still go into 0 0 times, so I'm left with 300. And then I can check it and say 14 times 300 is 0 0. I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to make it easier. I'm going to just do 14 times 3 and get 42 and then add 2 more zeros behind it. So yep, I got 4,200. So D equals 30. All right, let's try this one on your own. Can you do it? We've got the variable, so solve the equation. So here's our variable. We want to figure out what A is. A is not by itself, it's being divided. What's the opposite of division? Multiplication. So we are going to multiply by 5. Now when we multiply by that 5, we can cross simplify that and it just becomes A. Okay, so if you want to just, now that I kind of showed you why it works, you can just times by 5 and just know that those will cancel out. Because here's divide, here's multiply, they're opposites, they're going to like cancel each other out, and that 5 is going to be gone. All right, now that I've times 5 on one side, I'm going to make sure I times by 5 on another side, the other side, and I'm going to get 125 for A. And to check that, 125 right there, if I divide that by 5, I get, shocker, I get 25, which is what I needed it to equal. So A is indeed 125. All right, last one for you to do, and it is a division. Nope, it's times. 3 times n. So we're going to divide. We're going to do the opposite, and those will cancel out, won't they? Then I'm going to make sure that I do it on the other side as well. 15 divided by 3 is 5. If I replace 5 with that, 3 times 5, does that equal 15? Yes, it does. So I know that that is correct. That is how you are going to solve one-step equations using multiplication and division. Now that you understand it, you get to be the teacher. What did this student do wrong? It's a very common mistake. We have 6 times w equals 144. They found the variable, which is w, and they did the opposite. They saw this was times, and so they divided by 6. And they canceled it out, and it left them with w. So where was their mistake? Well, it looks like they times by 6, but then it looks like they divided by 6 here, but then they times by 6 over here. So did they do the same thing on each side? No, they didn't. They divided by 6 over here, but then they times by 6 over here. That's not only going to make it a little, that's going to make it a lot of unbalanced if they're not doing the same thing on each side. So instead of timesing by 6, they needed to do the exact same thing they did here, which was divide by 6. That would have kept it perfectly balanced. So what they should have got was, so that'd be 2. They should have gotten 24. Hopefully, they knew there was a mistake at this point. Hopefully, they checked it by plugging the 164 into that and going 864 times 6. And they probably didn't get very far before they were like, hold up. That is not the same as 144. And they could have been like, all right, what did I do wrong? Ah, I see what I did wrong. I shouldn't have multiplied right here. I should have divided. And so then they could now check the 24, plug it in, and go 24 times 6. And seeing that that would have got them 144, which would have got them right where they need to be. Okay, that is how you are going to multiply, use multiplication and division to solve one-step equations. Have fun, guys.